What's up, everybody? It's me, Merch. And so I kind of wanted to talk about a couple things. I like to address things as they kind of come up in the comment section. That's always been the way that I like to do it, because it makes me think more, you know, just about like, oh, it's a good topic, you know, that's something that needs to be talked about. So a couple of you guys were asking, and for good reason. If you didn't know any better and you just saw this bike, you know, you would definitely think, okay, maybe this bike is not in the best condition, or you know, being a drag bike and all that. But check these out. These are my soft bags that go on the side. And sorry, tangent. This is my top case, so you can lock it. This goes up here. I have this actually already fully serviced. I was a aircraft mechanic in the Navy, and one thing that I'm very, very good at, and that's something that I'll never get bad at. I don't mean to say, I hate saying that I'm good at stuff on the internet. I was a aviation machinist mate, and I used to work on helicopters and planes. And so the first thing I did when I bought this bike was I bought the manuals. That's the number one thing that I always do. I bought the manuals, right? And I went completely over this bike. I tore it down. I drove this bike into the cabin last winter, right into the main room where my bed is now. I completely stripped this thing down, kind of like what I'm gonna be doing. I don't have to do too much to it, but there's a few things that I have to do. But I tore it all the way down to the frame in the engine, and I went through everything. I did every single servicing that you have to do in here, even the stuff that is not required. I did everything. I'm talking like, this thing is a shaft drive. I broke it all the way down. I checked the pinions and the gears and everything. I replaced the starter. I replaced the alternator. I changed the clutch. I changed out all of the coils. I changed out everything, new batteries. Went over the wiring harness. I checked continuity. I checked everything. This has brand new tires on it. Even all the way down to, like, I even rebuilt the carburetors. So I already know what jet sizes to put in there. I mean, it says in here, but I've already got the jets and everything, the needles. It's really a very simple thing. If this bike had all the plastic on it, you guys would think differently. It basically is a Goldwing. I just took all the plastic off. That's the only difference. And actually, this bike on paper performs better than a Goldwing. There's just no plastic on it. That's all there is, guys. I know it might seem a little bit rough, but this is actually something that I feel 100% confident going down the road on, because I know everything about this bike. I literally went over everything. I went through every single section in here and looked at all the parts and seeing everything that I needed. As a mechanic, it's just something I really like doing. I tore the engine apart. I did timing. I did everything that you're supposed to do. I replaced all the gaskets. This thing's legit. I even sealed up the tank. I took the tank apart. I made sure there wasn't any rust in it, and I resealed the inside. I sprayed the entire chassis and everything with rubber undercoating. That's what this black stuff is. So I treated any rust, and then I rubber coated it, so that way, like the other day when I was riding on the salt roads, it doesn't matter. It just comes right off. And even when it's on here, it's not really rusting anything away. But yes, this is what it looked like when it was new. And actually, that's what it looked like when I got it. I just you know, the first thing I did was I pulled these top bags off, and then I, you know, slowly and surely I changed things around. Do I regret doing all that? Yes, of course I do. But that's life. You make decisions and you learn from them. That's kind of that's a story of my life, anyways. Yeah, this is actually a very, very reliable and awesome bike, and I have most of the parts that I need already. I think I had to pay maybe, you know, 200 bucks to get the odds and ends that I don't have, but I have pretty much everything that I need. And this bike is absolutely awesome. And actually, I even upgraded these rear suspensions so that it is, they used to be air shocks, and these ones they're more reliable. They're just physical shocks. So I'm gonna probably tear this thing apart a little bit more today. I'll show you guys where I'm at with it. Yeah, I wanted to touch on that because if I was to buy a Goldwing, trust me, I want to. They're so cool. I love Honda. Any kind of non-American bagger is like really reliable. The Goldwings are really sick. I like them a lot. The only thing about the Goldwing that I don't like is that this is an inline 4. It's you know, the Gixxer that I used to have, the GSXR 750 was an inline 4. The old CBs are inline 4s. A lot of bikes that I've had are inline 4s and carbureted, which I know how to work on these. If something's going on, if I'm at altitude, I can easily get to the carburetors and adjust them. I can pop the needles out, pop the jets out. It's really easy, especially without all this plastic on it. Even though the plastic would be really nice and handy to have, it really does make working on things when you're on the fly very difficult. The way that this is sort of like a naked bike, it makes getting in here and fixing something a breeze. I'm gonna have to kind of make something. That's something I'm gonna have to do, is I'm gonna have to make some kind of a wind deflector for all these electronics. I try not to ride in the rain, but it happens. And when it does, you should really have all of your electronics kind of getting out of the rain. Even though on motorcycles you can ride in the rain, that's when electronics are not the happiest. So you gotta make sure that they're all sealed up and covered up. But yeah, I gotta take this exhaust off today. That's the goal. I'm gonna do a full service on this again, even though I just serviced it last year. I change the oil every year, no matter what, and especially before a road trip. I'm pretty excited because these tires are rated for 10,000 miles. I just put them on last November. I probably only put 2,000 on them last November to when I put it away. I ride a lot. So this bike, and here's another little thing, guys. Cool thing about this bike. This bike has 37,000 miles on it. That's nothing on these. These bikes go 100,000 to 200,000 miles. These really are a contender against the Goldwing, and that's what they were for. They took this huge engine and they detuned it. The way that it's at right now is how it's was how it kind of was supposed to be, and then they realized that the gas mileage is horrible, so they had to tune it down so that I could get decent gas mileage. And I said the other day that it gets 55 miles a gallon. I don't know if that's exactly correct because I really don't have a way to measure it. On a full tank of gas, I'm not really sure exactly how far I could go. And with an extra gas tank on the back, just in case you poke a hole in something and lose all your gas, this thing could really go a long way. Just wait, guys. I know it looks a little rough around the edges. It's just because it's dirty and painted, but I feel very comfortable riding this bike, and if I paid 5 or 6 grand for a Goldwing, I would still have to do all this anyways. Because if you just took the word of somebody that sold you a bike, no offense, but you're in for a world of trouble, because everyone tries to sell a bike as fast as they can, and they will tell you anything. The guy who sold me this bike, I think I bought it for $700, and he said everything was good. Everything was good to go. The tires were at 5 PSI. They were rotten tires. I was running on 3 cylinders. The carburetor is full of gunk. Nothing on it was hooked up right. There was a handful of things on it that were good, but a majority of it needed to be gone over. It doesn't matter what somebody tells you, even if they have like a whole book full of all the maintenance, you should really check it over yourself, especially if you're gonna be putting your life on this thing daily, going across the country. It just really comes down to what you feel comfortable doing. And I would always feel comfortable going step by step through the books. And these manuals, you guys, they're awesome. They've got like a full schematic. I'm chasing wires over here and I know exactly where it goes and everything. It's really nice to have these. These are expensive. I think I paid 40 bucks for both of these, but I'm taking these with me. They're worth every penny. All right, I got work to do. The awesome thing about this particular bike is that the headers, it's a 2-piece header system that I took some Harley Davidson Sportster 1 3/4 inch pipes, and I I cut them. My buddy gave them to me for free, so it was totally awesome. And I just, I cut them and I heat wrapped them, and welded all the portholes closed. It's not the best weld job, but the cool thing is that I don't need to remove any more than just here. And so with some hose clamps, I can leave the front headers wrapped, which is really important when you're on a long motorcycle trip. You really want to have the pipes, especially by your feet, you want to have them wrapped. And these big mufflers back here are pretty well covered. They should be here. Everything that I ordered should be here in about a week. So this project really won't take long. All the meat and potatoes is all done. Everything we're doing is basically cosmetic. So I'm wearing a respirator because when you put on heat wrap, you want to put it on wet. But of course, when you take it off, I could wet it down, but I don't care that much. But when you pull it apart, it makes all this, you see all this fiberglass going everywhere? You don't want to get it on your clothes. You really don't want to get it on your hands, or as it is, I'm going to have an itchy night, but you know, it's not the end of the world. It comes off much easier when it is really dry. It just kind of flakes off. See that? It just like peels right apart. It's not something, when you make this stuff wet, it becomes stronger. So you can kind of see this. I did a pretty shoddy weld job, but it's not the most important thing. Just as long as it doesn't leak. If you're welding an exhaust, the only thing that really matters is that you don't have any leaks. So this was like one of the first welds that I've ever done. It was a while ago. I just started welding, so I'm not that good at it. But it didn't leak. I did have to go back over it twice. But yeah, good thing is because it's such a bad weld job as far as how it looks. I know exactly where the seam is, and it should be pretty easy for me to grind that away and to remove these and put it back to stock. And the exhausts that are coming, the old ones, they slide right over these headers, and everything is all peachy. Just to kind of give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about, because this will be the only time you guys are ever going to see it. And I know that when I did this bike, I posted it on some forums because apparently I'm the only one who's ever owned this bike that wanted to go fast. And probably will be the last one who wants to go fast. But these are some baffles that if you ever are trying to do something with a straight pipe, you have to restrict the airflow. Otherwise, it's first of all, it's really loud, and if you're actually legitimately drag racing, it's fine. It doesn't matter. There's no noise restrictions. But if you're on the road, you need to have this type of stuff. This is a glass pack. So there's a glass pack in the front, like this, and that absorbs a lot of the vibrations and a lot of the exhaust noise. Obviously, it also gets filthy. You do have to swap that out from time to time. It's fiberglass, so you should be wearing gloves. I'm about to wash my hands. This goes like this, and it doesn't go all the way down, so I guess I did have room for a little bit more, but it got caught up on something in there, and you can see it bent it. Not a huge deal, but I had to custom weld this to this and this to this to make it work, but it does a good job. I know this is kind of like the boring part of the maintenance, but this is really important to making your straight pipe motorcycle run good. If you guys have a cafe racer or anything where you put straight pipes on it, they're really cheap. So straight pipes are pretty cool, but you have to baffle it and you have to usually mess with the exhaust. These probably cost $15 to make them, and they work really well. They work by, you can see, they work by restricting the air, or I guess the exhaust. That's all it's trying to do is just slow it down, but you can clearly see it's still pretty straight shot. So it's not enough to really slow it down as much as the stock exhaust. That's why I'm putting the stock exhaust back on. And the stock exhaust goes straight and not up. So I won't be getting my saddlebags hot, which is a nice touch. But the lean angle which is not a big deal, the lean angle is going to be reduced. Meaning when you're going into a corner and you're leaned way over, I've scraped pegs on this thing many, many times. And if my exhaust was down here, I would be scraping my exhaust. That's why usually you'll see motorcycle exhausts with an upsweep. It's not for anything other than giving you more lean angle when you're riding, so you don't scrape your pipes. No one wants to do that. But yeah, I'm gonna cut these things off real quick. So one down. You can see this absolutely atrocious weld job that I did here, but that's okay. I wanted to be a little bit ahead of it, so that way I can grind this all down and make it 100% back to stock. I had to do some really, really bad weld jobs, but this was my first weld. It held up, but there's always room for improvement. And number 2. I think that's probably gonna do it for today. I don't like to do too much all at once, but this is the so these are the old handlebars. You can see how short they are. They're so short and very, very uncomfortable. You actually have to lean forward almost a foot further. That's a really big deal when you're on a long ride. These are the classic cruiser handlebars. I mean, they adjust this way and that way with a bolt here and here, and you can go forward and back, so you can really bring the handlebars back to you without having to do much. That's why I really do like this bike. I didn't get rid of these because I knew that these were going to be handy again. The grip on these are 7/8, and the handlebars is 1 inch. So it's difficult. So this one, the handlebars are 1 inch and the grips are 1 inch. So I had to Dremel these controls out, and now there's usually a little pin that drops down in a hole right in here that keeps it in place. That's not there anymore. So these aren't very expensive, and all the electronics are still good. I think I paid $16 for this. Everything's pretty much all set. That's the great thing, is like, I know this bike, guys, I know this bike looks rough, but I would definitely feel more comfortable going on a long road trip on something like this that I've gone through and I've double checked everything. I mean, I know that everything is good to go, than buying one from somebody who just tells me everything is good. It's gonna cost you not only the price of the bike, but whatever you're willing to not fix if that breaks on the road, or whatever you're not willing to check. If it breaks on the road, that's on you. And you might be in the middle of the mountains out in Colorado, or, you know, who knows? I've definitely been some places where there was a couple 100 miles from people in my van. Luckily, not on this, but I will be putting myself somewhat far in far places where I feel much more comfortable knowing that I already have the skill set to work on this bike. Whatever breaks, whatever happens on this bike, I already know pretty much what the issues are gonna be. I know the ticks. It's gonna be kind of a informal shop videos until I can get this thing on the road. And then once we get it on the road, hopefully by then I have a much better camera. I'm gonna be doing some tree work again for the next month to get the money to cover all the stuff that I bought for this stuff, and to also cover the trip. I'm trying to plan for like $5 grand to have a good cushion to ride on. If this bike has problems and doesn't make it, I will have insurance that will tow it all the way back home. So there are some things that you got to take into account. It's not like I'm just totally flying, you know, out of here with no thought process. There are some things that you really do have to think about when you go on a long bike trip, and the number one thing is maintenance. Maintenance. Are you gonna break down? Because it's not very fun when you're just sitting in the garage on a broke down bike or on the side of the road. It's much more fun when you're cruising down the road and you feel like you're on a roller coaster the whole time. But it's one step at a time, guys. I'm just trying to walk you through my thought process and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. If I had $5 grand right now in my pocket, I would still not buy a Goldwing. I would take that $5 grand and I would keep it for the ride, because this bike is good to go. A real mechanic, they can make a good bike out of something that doesn't look so good. So just because something is shiny clean on the outside, it might be complete trash on the inside. So it's what's on the inside that matters. Just like people, you know what I'm saying? But that's good for today, guys. I'll see you back out here. I'll see you when I see you, I guess. I'm pretty much just waiting on parts. Got everything right, pretty much where it needs to be. Gonna paint it probably afterwards. We're gonna give it a little spray paint when I pull it out. I'll see you guys real soon. Peace.